Respected Chairperson, Rotarian Pradeep Agrawal, our guest speaker for this evening, Ms. Nisha Thomas, members of the Senior Citizens Club, sponsored by the Rotary Club of Bangalore Cantonment. Good evening and a very warm welcome to you. Ms. Nisha Thomas has had the honor and privilege to be trained as India's first mBraining certified trainer under the founder Grant Cicelu in Holland in 2017. Since then, she strongly advocates the tools provided in the mBraining toolkit, and this has helped her to make a marked difference in her life. She is here to speak to us from her personal space of significant breakthroughs, which has been the result of her immense curiosity of the possibilities for humankind, coupled with personal challenges she has been able to overcome. She has always believed that the best and the most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched, but must be felt by the heart. Nisha has had various senior corporate roles in the UAE and India for over 20 years and is now based in India to champion mBraining to every soul she meets. She is also an NLP practitioner, sleep consultant, hypnotherapist, and timeline therapist. I now request Ms. Nisha Thomas to take over the session. Over to you, Ms. Nisha.
Thank you, Professor Maggie. It's wonderful to be here, and it's a privilege for me to speak to so many of the senior citizens of the Rotarian Club. I look forward to actually moving you all from realizing that you all, including me, have more than one brain. So I would like to keep this an open forum and have more discussions because we are a relatively smaller group. So tell me if any of you have been exposed to realizing that you actually have more than one brain. So if anybody has any information on this, please do share.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I have a small question, madam. Sorry to ask you that. Brain means, is it the same thing as mind, or is there, no? Suddenly it struck me there are any two things like mind and brain. So normally we have been thinking is it as a mind only. Is it the same thing as the brain?
Not really, Mr. Ganeshan. Most likely what people do is, in the normal parlance, when we are speaking, we kind of replace one word for the other. But the brain, when we normally talk about, we talk about the brain as the physical organ that sits in our head.
Yeah.
Now, every time we talk about the brain, all of us are aware we have a right hemisphere, left hemisphere, prefrontal cortex, all of these wonderful parts of the physical brain. What I'm here to discuss and actually open up your minds, which is the comprehension part of the brain, is about the fact that you do operate for more than one brain, being your brain is also in your heart and your gut. And that's what I'm going to share with you today and discover how all of you, even though are senior citizens, are yet to figure this out and see how best you all can work with in your lives moving forward. At any point you'll have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I would happily stop and then we can talk through. Is that okay? So mBraining is all about unlocking the power of the head, heart, and gut. All right. Now, in the life in the 21st century, especially as you and I know it as of today, obviously we're all having tremendous amount of stress. Just yesterday, I heard my 9-year-old neighbor who also told me that she's stressed out because for the whole of last year, she's been sitting at home and having her schooling. So if a 9-year-old child can face stress, I can only imagine what the rest of us have then been going through. Some of the other challenges we also face is work-life economics. So a lot of you were working and now are possibly retired, still have the question of constantly worrying or thinking about the outflows of money, the inflows of money, and if you're actually enjoying your retirement life. You may have had plans, they might have not all fruitified. I know a lot of senior citizens who plan to really travel in 2020, and unfortunately, COVID put a spoke in the wheel for all of us. Then in every situation of life, we're always facing, how do we make the right decision? Is it right for us to do any small decision making? In all of the coaches that I work with, including myself, one of the biggest challenges we face today is the stress or the pressure for decision making. Almost most of the people who come to us for a consult constantly come to us saying that I feel tremendous amount of pressure, work-life balance, office pressures, family pressures, pressures on how to deal with their children. Even deciding on which car to buy is a decision involved. And that decision making itself adds a lot of pressure to all of us and is an essential part of one of the challenges we face in the 21st century life. So obviously, when we are constantly pressured between all of these challenges, then there is something or the other that's going to give way. And one of the big things that we all get hit with is an issue with our well-being. It could be physical well-being, it could be emotional well-being, it could be our financial well-being, but it definitely takes a toll. And the moment our well-being is questioned, obviously our happiness quotient is going to dip down tremendously. Most of the people in their 20s to their 50s, which is where they are doing their life purposes, often have an identity crisis. They wonder what is their purpose, why are they here on the earth, and what is it that they have to do to have a good balance of what they're meant to do and what they're supposed to achieve and how they're supposed to feel deep within about their existence on this earth. Now, it's very interesting if you look at how mBraining came about. It's based completely on the ancient wisdoms, and there's great amount of research that's been done by the two people who founded the art and science of mBraining. It's a completely scientific subject and is based on neurosciences. So the research shows us very clearly that the wisdom of the old times, being also Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Sufism, all of them talk about the three soul concept. So even esoteric teachings and practices like yoga, enneagram, all of these have a three-part intelligence or a source of energy that they refer to when they talk about wisdom. It's not only for a religious practice, but this is also a form of intelligence. Now, I'd like to share something interesting with all of us, is that the neuroscience is talking about a very simple concept. And I want you all to imagine this. When we were actually formed in the womb of our mothers, can anybody tell me which was the first part of our body that was actually formed?
The brain.
Okay, anybody else? There are 16 participants. I should have at least one more opinion.
No, I didn't get the question. Can you please repeat it?
When we're in our mother's womb, which part of our body first gets formed?
Head.
I think it is the brain, I think. I don't know.
Okay.
Heart.
Heart, okay.
Head, I think.
Anybody else? So I've had the brain, someone said heart, and somebody said, yeah, the brain, heart, and this is what I've heard. Anything else?
Head.
Head, okay, okay.
The head followed by the stomach.
Okay, okay. Anybody else?
I think before brain, head should start, no?
Head should be the starting point.
No, first you get it into as a round formation.
Mm-hmm.
Then from that gradually, then your legs and hand and with the head all simultaneously start to grow.
Okay. Okay. All right. So all my senior citizens here are wrong. You all got formed, but forgot how you got formed. So the first part of our body that gets formed, very simple, is our gut, because we have to be fed as an embryo, right? So when you're in a mother's womb, that umbilical cord is actually the gut part. So when you're getting fed, is from there is where your evolution actually begins to happen. So there's a very simple thing. If all of you, I assume most of you have had children or grandchildren, or at least have seen other people's children. When a child is crying, the little infant doesn't know to communicate at this point and is asking for milk or wants to be carried, the hands will always be open. The moment they're satiated and they have a full tummy, the hands are closed. So the first type of communication we as human beings have learned is to cry out, because the first intuition, the first feelings that we are coming from is our gut. The first thing that we feel is either I'm hungry or I'm satiated. Either of these cues are then addressed by adults to take care of, and then I'm all okay. All right. So the wisdom of times shows us that neuroscience says we have at least 3 brains. Now, why am I saying why do we have at least 3 brains? The reason I say that is neuroscience has further been developed, and there's been more research that's happened in the recent times. And they also call your autonomic nervous system and also your sexual organs another brain. So technically, if we look at it, we are talking about 5 brains that actually constitute on how I function as a human being, how I make my decisions. So mBraining is based on neurolinguistics and behavioral model. So if any of you are familiar with neurolinguistic programming, which is commonly called as NLP, mBraining comes right after NLP and has taken off on how we can further develop and help people improve their behavioral issues with mBraining. So obviously, I've already shared with you that there is a brain in your head, a brain in your heart, and a brain in your gut. All right. So this is the book that I am referring to, which is called mBraining, Using Your Multiple Brains to Do Cool Stuff. And this was written by Grant Susalu and Marvin Oka. And it's with great, very heavy heart I share that Grant passed away in 2018, and it was very tragic. But there are almost 350 trainers around the world and over 2,000 mBraining coaches that help people in their daily lives to make better decisions and also discover how to actually work with more than the one brain that we obviously know about. So I also would like to show this picture to you, and I hope you're looking at the screen. And if any of you can tell me, what is it that you think we're looking at right now?
Nerves, all nerves.
Sorry?
Nerves connecting to the heart.
Nerves connecting to the heart. Okay. Anybody else?
Neurons.
Is it the flow of neurons?
Okay.
Neurons.
All right.
And I also feel it is neuron.
Very good. Anybody else? Is anyone else looking at this picture and thinking what this could possibly be?
Maybe part of the spine being formed.
Okay, interesting, interesting. Anyone else wants to give it a go?
Which all these messages orders passes. The
Sorry?
whatever the way of feelings and the orders, whichever order you have to give for your body, for the command.
Right. Okay. So that was the closest answer. I want you all to imagine this picture now. Take a moment, look at it with a new set of eyes, and imagine this as I tell you this, that this is a microfilm taken when a thought is being formed in our brain. Can you imagine how beautifully vivid and exquisite this picture is? So every time we have a thought being formed in our brain, this is how it looks. And this is how beautifully colorful it is. And this is how information is getting transmitted to the rest of my body, even as I speak to you. Some of you are sitting there and thinking, oh, what's for dinner? Someone is thinking, I need to go for a walk. Or someone is thinking, oh, there's something going to be interesting on the telly. Whatever is coming as we are doing our daily tasking, every single thought basically looks like the picture that I've now shared with you. All right. I want you to now imagine if this is what the process of a thought looks like. Can you imagine how often there is a communication that's happening between your head, your heart, and your gut? Remember the time when you were in love for the very first time. I want you to think about the emotions that triggered in you, how that made you feel. And now I also want you to think about maybe your childhood in your grandmother's place. Think about your favorite snacks being made in the kitchen, the aroma that arises, and how those foods trigger memories. So even now, when you go to some place at a relative or your spouse or your children or somebody else makes a meal that triggers off those memories, I want you to wonder, where is this information being stored at? How does that come back after so many years?
Wait again.
I want you to think about the time when you think you hear a beautiful song, maybe from the 60s or the 50s or whenever it is most relevant to you, and how that song then picks up those memories where you were very happy. And even if today I played that kind of a music, it's going to completely change how you feel. Can any of you relate to what I'm sharing here?
Yes.
Okay, anyone wants to share any experience with us?
Every time we think it is only through brain it is coming. It is stored in brain.
Okay. Where do you think when you think about food, your favorite food, how does the aroma then come from only the brain? Do you feel anything in your gut area at that time?
Okay, maybe that gives a clue that it may not be brain alone.
And I also want to jog your memories for those of you who feel very inactive at this moment. Jog your memory about the first time you shared a kiss with somebody. I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, but when you had your first kiss, you felt your heart pounding. I sure hope you did, at least. So can you imagine that feeling? And tell me, how did your heart pound when you were just sharing a kiss? Okay, somebody's already calling their ex-girlfriend. All right. So this is how I want you to. Sorry.
Seniors have forgotten those moments.
I'm trying to awaken at them, ma'am. Okay, now that we know of all these feelings, sensations, I'm going to dwell a little more into this. And how we're going to do this is, if I want all of you to Pay attention to your screen, close your eyes if that's what makes you more comfortable. Do that, and we're going to do a little bit of a play on how you can meditate. What I'll be wanting you to do is close your eyes, feel comfortable, rest back into your chairs. All right. Rest into your chair, feel comfortable. Be so comfortable with your breath area. Away all your gadgets and only be conscious of the air that you breathe as it goes through your nostrils, through your throat, filling your diaphragm. You feel your chest expand, and as it collapses, be aware of the breath that comes out. Continue deep breathing into the area of your heart. Like someone said, maybe this is an area we haven't been paying attention to in a long while. Pay attention to it again. Ask your heart, what really makes you smile? Thank your heart for bringing you safely so far into your life, where you can enjoy whatever you've worked for. The fact that we are 18 people sitting in different homes, in different places, and still breathing together. Breathe in with gratitude, feeling complete. And when you're comfortable with your 6 in-breaths and 6 counts of out-breath, move down deep within yourself to the area of your gut. Remember that these two are brains that you haven't talked to in a long time. You've ignored their messages and given all the importance to that one brain in your head. Go down to your gut area, deep into the pit of your stomach. You may see visuals of yourself being almost like a child. See your childhood, friends from the past, experiences from the past. There may be memories. There may be colors that you see. There may be visuals you see. Maybe nothing as well. And that's okay. Because you haven't spoken to your gut in a long time. Keep your breath even and complete. And thank your gut for keeping you good care, keeping you well, for making you feel hungry when you're hungry, doing its biological duties and other purposes that it's actually here to serve. Continue deep breathing. Focus so clearly on your breath and move back into the area of your heart. And if you're comfortable, you can also hold your pulse or place your hand where you can feel your heartbeat so that you're in rhythm with your heartbeat. And the moment you hear that thump of your heart, that beat is exclusive to you. Continue feeling that breath and that peace, and feel the compassion your heart is sharing with you. And with the next whole breath, move into your magnificent head brain, the brain that seems to know everything about you, the one that is controlling you, the one that is filled with all the creativity on how your brain takes care of you. Ask your head brain how it's got here, what else you can do, and how you can be more in control of your life, letting your heart and your gut participate as one family with that head brain. Tell your head brain you have assistants, you've not used them in the past, but I want you to use your other brains as well, so that I, as a human being, can make better decisions, perform better, and reach my optimum authenticity in my life. Continue your deep breath in gratitude. Pay attention to all that I shared with you and continue breathing, simply following my voice. Be aware of the sensations, be aware of the colors around you, be aware of what is happening inside your body. Are your fingers being tingled? Is your back feeling achy because you're sitting up straight? Is your stomach growling for a cup of tea? Pay attention to every sensation. Aware of your head, aware of your chest, aware of your gut, aware of your thighs, aware of your feet, aware of your whole body, attached together in this unison of three amazing brains, and how you're going to use it much better as we go forward. For the next few minutes, take a second, feel comfortable, and when you're ready, join me back in the room. All right. I'm sorry, that seems to be a lot of background noise. There were people talking and it was disturbing others.
We have muted everyone, but they somehow managed to unmute themselves.
There are about 5-6 people who are unmuted, so obviously the experience was not complete, and that's, sorry, I can't take responsibility for that. I could hear people talking in the background. It's very disturbing when you do these, but it is what it is. So for those of you who took it seriously and participated, can you please tell me what your experience was like? Anyone who actually took it seriously and felt anything differently, saw anything differently?
It was more of a meditation, making your thoughts lighter. So some concentration also was there. That means throwing away all the other thoughts. That is what I experienced I mean,
Okay. Was there any colors, anything that you experienced which you've not experienced in the past when you've done meditations?
No visualization at all. Totally absorbed in the sound and your talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else that came across which was unusual, different? Is this the first time that you've done any meditation, or have you done it in the past?
No, I've been doing meditation very regularly. Probably that is one of the reason. I don't know whether it was influenced by that or something. I'm not able to tell you very particularly.
Mm-hmm.
Could be that there was some influence from my experience of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
So it was moving more towards that. Probably that made me not able to realize what else was there.
Okay. Anybody else with any different experiences?
Before coming to this session, we just finished our yoga class. Already we all have gone for this deep sleep and thing, and we have just come out.
Yeah, what Madam said is 100% correct. Both of us were there that meet.
So we feel cool and calm and those things. So we don't see any colors or any sound or anything because we're not used to it now.
All right. Very good. So I just want us to just further explore on what are the characteristics of neural networks. Okay. So that would then give us understanding of what it is that we're looking for. So there's a large number of neurons, ganglia, which are sensory neurons, and motoneurons. This is what then is interconnecting the complex ways through all of our systems, right? From our head, spinal cord, autonomic nervous system, your heart, and then further on to your gut and so on. There are support cells and components such as glia cells, anastrocytes, proteins, etc., which is carrying information through. So I don't want to make it a complete science class. I'm sure none of us loved this. This was not our first subject, but this is a chemical warehouse of neurotransmitters. And this is where I want to explain on how these neurotransmitters then attribute to perceiving, assimilating the information, processing the information. And what you would be most surprised is that they also have a memory bank. And that is how these organs, the physical heart and the physical gut, is also being labeled as a brain. So I don't want you to think that just because, oh, the food brings me a memory, or because my loved one brings me a memory or a feeling, it's not a brain. These organs have been scientifically proven to be a brain because it perceives, assimilates information, it processes the information, and it also has a memory storage. And what's also interesting is anytime you have the right triggers, you can access this memory just like how you would access memory from your head brain. Just like now when I spoke about that special song, maybe that special food that you love, or your first kiss, it did trigger some sort of a memory in you. That memory is coming from these different sites and not only your head brain. All right. Now, your multiple brains. Now, I want all of us know about this magnificent brain that we have in our head. And that is obviously the cephalic brain, has a right hemisphere, left hemisphere, does all your memory and storage capacity. But what I want you to remember is the prime function of your head brain is creativity. So all your creativity that comes, it could be something as simple as how you organize your refrigerator or how you don't organize your refrigerator. That all comes from your creative brain. Now, what makes it such a dominant, powerful memory bank is that it is connected by 50 to 100 billion neurons. So it's the number of neurons that collectively put together that an organ is then called a brain. Now, if I refer to the fact that our umbilical cord is the first organ, our gut is basically the first organ that gets formed while we're in the wombs of our mothers, how is that then we forgot how to access our gut? So some of you were referring to yoga. So when we were young, we could twist and bend and, you know, flex our bodies in any which way. How is it that as we grow older, we're not able to do that? Of course, we're not practicing the art of yoga anymore as diligently as we should have. Secondly, we have stopped listening to our gut as we had when we were a child. So if you remember any of the children or yourselves, you know, 5 to 10 years or 15 years, and we're playing outside in the sun, the moment we are tired, we know that I want to run in, grab a snack, grab a bottle of water. I know how I have to take care of myself. A child is very aware. The child knows that he's on a bike, he's going to fall down. He knows that he is not afraid to take that risk. Now, the same thing, if say a 60-year-old who does not know how to ride a bicycle, and I say tomorrow, I want you to get on the bicycle and learn how to ride a bicycle, she's going to be like, no, 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 if I do that, I'm going to break my hips, I'm going to have a fall, I'm going to scrape my knees. There would be so many things that come up vis-a-vis a child. And I tell them, here's a cycle. Even before an adult can help the child is going to say, yes, I want to go learn to ride a bicycle, right? So I will come to tell you, why is the gut so heroic? The gut brain, or the enteric brain, as we know, is the center of your courage. And it is also the center of your identity. I now want us to think about how we refer to certain languages, right? So when we're crossing the street, say we're distracted, and these days all of us are on our mobiles most of the time, and suddenly you have a feeling there's a vehicle coming and you pull back. That, you say, is your gut instinct. The gut, the main function of the gut is courage, but it is also to protect you. The moment you eat a bad food, something that's sour or not good for your body, first thing that's going to happen, your gut is going to bring it up, either upwards or downwards, but it's getting out of your system because your gut is trying to protect you from a danger that's coming up. Now, the enteric brain, or your gut brain, is connected by 200 to 500 million neurons. So every time you're feeling something in your gut, it is getting transferred and transmitted between all the organs before you take a decision for your well-being. That then brings me to the cardiac brain, or your seat of compassion. Your heart is the area where you have the most amount of empathy. Now, given the prime functions, as I've explained it to you, being creativity, compassion, and courage, can any of you think about some famous personalities where one brain is much, much more stronger than the other brain? I'll give you an example, and then I'll leave the floor open to you. So if I say Mother Teresa, which brain do you think of hers was most active?
It must be the cardiac brain, compassion.
Absolutely, absolutely. So can all of you now come up with some examples of famous people that we know, and let's see, where do you think and which brain would be the most active? And while we do that, also think about yourself and see which of your brain is most active or more overpowering of the others. Anyone has an example?
That's why you have the imprints on your left side of your brain. No? They said that which activate, and it brings you all the images and the aspects, whatever has happened. I don't know the name. I can't specify the name, but I remember usually they say that your left portion of your brain, which was fast and give you all the inputs fast.
Right. So I'm asking about, let's talk about some famous personalities where you feel that one of their brain is far more dominant on the others. Okay, let's talk about somebody controversial, just to get everybody's juices up. I don't know how many of you are for Trump and how many of you are against Trump, That's not the discussion. Just asking, which brain of Donald Trump do you see would be the most powerful or dominating brain when he makes his decisions?
That must be the courage brain, enteric brain.
Enteric.
Okay. Anybody else?
More of a business brain than an
Okay.
actual politician's brain.
Okay. And so which brain do you think a politician is using then?
It's a creative brain.
The Indian politicians have a brain which works on all 360 degrees. Our brain works in only one direction. Theirs
Okay.
works in all 360 degrees.
Okay.
Creative one.
Creative one. Okay. Anybody else? Any other personality you can think of and you can tell me? If I said Joan of Arc, everybody knows the character of Joan of Arc, right? So which brain do you think was most dominant in her?
Courage.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Maybe Einstein. Einstein may be creative.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you see Einstein being creative, and I completely take that on board, how many of us have noticed that people who are extremely genius are also borderline eccentric?
I didn't get you, ma'am.
People who are extremely creative, like Einstein, are also borderline eccentric.
Huh.
They will not follow the most famous narrative. For example, if I tell you Einstein, the first thing you're going to think about this white frizzy hair with a white frizzy mustache. Now, he's not a poster boy for good looks, right? So he is not someone who's very concerned about how his appearance is. He is more concerned about how is he going to produce the next formula that's going to change the world, correct?
Correct.
So we also present ourselves based on what our brains are then, which one is more dominant. Now, if I'm a person who is very, very conscious about the food I eat, I'm very conscious about my diet, I'm very conscious about my health, which brain do you think is most active in me?
It is compassion, no?
Sorry?
It is compassion.
Protection.
Because you are
Really?
planning
You
more
would
and you are
think
being
it's
more
only compassion?
wanted to be, yeah.
And what about your enteric or your gut brain?
Already because you have the courage in you.
Uh-huh.
With the courage, then automatically you have compassion to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Based of that, then you get your creative mood and you do it.
Right. But remember, your gut brain's first job is to protect you. So if you are extremely cautious about taking care of your health, then highly likely your gut brain is much more stronger than your compassion or your creativity in you.
Okay.
See? Because your identity is now a person who's very physically fit. I'm not saying it's a bad or a good thing. I'm just talking about characteristics here purely. Person who's taking care of his or her fitness is very conscious of the identity. Their identity revolves around the fact that they should look good, they should present themselves well, they want to be an epitome of health and well-being. Where vis-a-vis, let's think about a poet or an artist or an author. He is only concerned about the best book he can possibly write, the best poem he can possibly write. He's not going to give much of a value of how he is presenting himself to society at large. M.F. Hussain, everybody knows a famous artist.
I have a question, ma'am.
Sure. And please don't call me ma'am. My name is Nisha.
Okay. A mentally retarded person will have which neurons are shortcoming there? Okay.
First of all, let's just be politically correct. None of us are mentally retarded. We might be challenged in different forms.
Okay.
So a lot of the challenges, if you look at children with different spectrums of autism, and I work with a few of them as well.
Okay.
Some of them have certain of their brains which are far more attuned than the rest of us, even us who we call as normal. Anyway, normal is a different definition, but because these children have been defined on different spectrums of autism, you will see that some of them are extremely quiet, right? So they don't want any noise. They're they don't like loud colors. Now, each child is very different, but it all depends on which spectrum of autism they are defined on. And this is purely about autism spectrum I'm talking about. There are other mental challenges as well. We'll come to that. Now, for an autistic child who's sensitive to sound, light, etc., most likely his or her creative brain is going to be very high, including their compassionate brain. Now, you'll see that certain amount of autistic children tend to put on a lot of weight, okay? And the reason why this happens is because they have no control, or they don't have an idea of the concept of food as being nutrition. For them, food then becomes actually an emotional support component for them to feel better. This is also where you can talk about, you've all heard about irritable bowel syndrome, emotional overeating, depression either can lead to somebody being highly underweight or highly overweight purely because they attach emotions to food, right? For example, if you look at during the pandemic, when there was a complete lockdown, people who are completely used to being in a very social setup, always going out, either hanging out with their friends or family or whatever the case, and then suddenly being isolated, led them to serious depression. And the first thing through the period of COVID, you saw so many people turning to their kitchens and becoming master chefs and becoming great bakers, because suddenly food became the one thing that brought everybody together.
Okay.
Okay. Does that answer answer part of your question?
Part of my question, yes.
Okay. Anybody else?
I have one more question.
Sure.
When we say we have reflex action, that is, we protect our eyes automatically. Which one is active there? Creative or courage? I don't know. I didn't understand.
Okay, so say something is happening to you, okay, and you immediately want to protect your eyes.
Yeah.
So what's happening in that absolute fraction of a second, your gut sees there is something is going to happen.
Okay.
The information has been transformed, your eyes come over, your hands come over your eyes to protect your eyes. Yeah. So it's all so in absolute micro nanoseconds that you're not actually comprehending where that information is coming from. This is why I asked us to think about the times when we were children. Because remember, from ages of 0 to 7, that is when all of these three brains are highly intuitive. Okay, so imagine as a child, you have new neighbors who've come across. Do you care as a child what is their social standing, what is their class, what is their color, what is their religion? You won't care. You saw another child, you want to play with the child, that's it. When did all these differentiations come in? The differentiation came because your mother called you and said, no, don't play with them. They're of this religion, they're of that class, and they're of this place, or whatever was then you're being educated, conditioned into believing there is a difference between you, me, them, hers, his, all of that. For a child, there is no differentiation. So for a child, all of these brains are completely active. So if you see a young child who you give him a blank piece of paper and a lot of color, he's going to draw the most abstract, crazy piece of thing. And he'll say like, an apple, this is a fairy godmother.
Yeah.
And the child honestly believes that's a fairy godmother. His creativity is at the best. And we as adults will look at it and think like, okay, I have no idea what you're thinking, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we have systematically killed ourselves into becoming factory products of how we should call and be what is so-called normal. The normal in each of us has been redefined. So when we were speaking earlier, one of you just said, I don't know how I take my decisions and I don't know how I do this, because we have systematically stopped paying attention to what is actually happening. Like, when was the last time, if I ask this question, this is one of my favorite questions I ask in all my seminars. When was the last time you did something for the first time in your life?
Regarding
Anything.
in which field?
Any field, ma'am. When was the last time you did something for the first time? You ate a fruit you've never had before. You had Korean food. You went salsa dancing. You jumped into a pool, which you were not supposed to. Anything. When was the last time you experienced something for the first time in your life?
Can I say something?
Please.
You know, the first time, the last thing which I did the first time was regarding a Christmas message which was given to the church.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, it's only the priest or the bishops give such messages.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was asked, can you give a message? I didn't think whether I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I said yes, and I did it.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So that was the last time you experienced something for the first time in your life, correct?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Anybody else?
I did it in.
But okay, I also want to ask you, ma'am, how did that make you feel?
I felt good about it because I covered all the points that I was supposed to have covered.
Okay.
And I got a response from many of them saying that was excellent because normally an ordinary person does not give a message like this.
Right.
Especially a Christmas message.
True.
It's done by the bishop or the priest.
When you had that feeling, it felt good. You used such a very common word. How did you actually truly feel? Think about it deep within yourself.
But I didn't get you.
How did you actually feel? You said, yeah, I felt good, because I feel your answer is that is what the world would expect to hear. But I want to know, how did Professor Maggie Elias actually feel, truly feel?
I felt satisfied with what I did.
Okay.
Because if I didn't come up to that level, they would not have said that they appreciated it.
Of course. Anything else? Any other emotions that was triggered in the process?
I was happy.
Okay.
I was happy because I did something which normally the others don't do in our group.
Okay. Very good. Very good.
I enjoyed it.
All right. Fantastic. Good for you. Good for you. Anybody else wants to share? When was the last time they did something, experienced something for the first time?
On September 22nd, 1980.
Okay. That long ago.
Yes.
And what was it that you experienced for the first time?
Because after my marriage, first time I had been to the defense life. So I went to attend a party, which I am not used at all throughout my life. So that was a great experience. Neither I have eaten anything outside of the house or anything. But that was the first day, and on a Friday, very auspicious day during Durga Puja time. Had been to Daji's house and had, which they have prepared in the mustard oil.
Okay, okay.
That is the day I felt it is something, okay, I have given lots of happiness and made people to feel happy about me, my presence over there.
So, ma'am, if I may ask you, can you imagine we are in 2021 and you spoke about an instance that was 1980?
Yeah.
Don't you think in all of these years you should have experienced something else for the first time?
Lots of things. Even today morning also I felt.
Okay.
I get lots of experiences like this.
Okay. So I want us to pay close attention to the next time you're going to experience something for the first time, because these are triggers of joy. And as we age, which all of you know very well, and all of us know very well, is that as we age, we need to constantly seek those seeds of joy so that we are kept more agile and alive in what we are doing. Right?
Recent one experience, I can just share it.
Sure.
It was like Silver Tackies. Once when I joined here in Silver Tackies, they wrote about my life history. Just when I read on it, on a paper, black and white, I felt so happy. Oh, I have done so much in my life.
How wonderful. How wonderful. Congratulations.
Later I was remembering, not I was giving importance to it, which I was thinking casually I'm doing everything. But
Right,
when
right.
certification and when I got the applause from so many people, people were congratulating for what all I have done it. So I said, oh, I have done something great.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Congratulations, ma'am. Congratulations.
Thank you. So that was the thing. Mainly, I felt very happy in that moment.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
People
I can hear the emotions in your voice.
Yes.
Okay, so moving forward with this, which do you think then ideally you should follow? We've had all these discussions. I've confused all of you a lot. Now I want to ask you, what do you follow then?
Your instinct, no? First thing is you get your instinct, what you're supposed to do, what not to do.
So where does your instinct come from, ma'am?
As you, something you said, no, from your gutter brain or something from there. Which is already formed. So the inputs, what you got from your childhood, from your mother, from your teacher, and from your friends and relatives and all those things, which has been done lots of formation inside you. So with that, you get an instinct either to do it or not to do.
So you're saying that you should follow your gut. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, most of the time that gives you a proper way to achieve what you want.
Okay. Anybody else would like to add to that?
I also like to follow only the gut brain.
Only the gut brain.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
More sort of, it is more protected about your human system, your body and other things, you know. So it takes care of you. That is then I thought it is I would depend on that.
Okay. So, sir, I don't know who I'm talking to, so I'm just going to put this out there. Say you have 50 lakh rupees suddenly. Okay. Now I'm going to ask your gut brain, I've got 50 lakh rupees. What am I going to do with it? What do you think the answer will be?
I didn't get the question, madam.
You've suddenly come upon 50 lakh rupees.
Yeah.
Okay. Small money, but still. So you're going to ask your gut, what do I do with 50 lakh of rupees?
No, I don't attach any importance to what I get. As long as I get what I need, I'm contented.
I don't want you to get philosophical about the question. I just want you to look at it purely from the point that you're going to ask your gut about money-making decision.
You may have dreamt something in your life, which you want to achieve. Because the lack of fund, you could not be able to do that work or to achieve it. So once you get this money, automatically you said, now I got the money. So let me fulfill my wishes.
Okay.
No, that type of getting the money and trying to figure out what it is, I will put the question to my real brain. That
was the answer I was looking for.
Yeah.
So now if I asked you, say you have a child, I don't know how many of you have children, but if you have a child and your child is going through depression, what would you then do at that point?
Give more attention to him, talk to him, make him to feel ease. With lots of patience he should have. And
how about compassion?
Sit with him and talk to him.
How about compassion?
Yeah, that's what. You have to be more compassionate to the child.
Right.
To feel free to talk with you, to share his feelings, his ideas. And slowly you have to feed him.
So I want you all to remember this. If nothing else walks away with you today, I want you all to remember what are the prime function of these brains or neural networks as we know them. Your head brain basically does your cognitive perception, your thinking, making meaning, how to split your 50 lakh of rupees, all of that fantastic stuff. Your heart is doing the emoting, attaching value to things, the relational effect that it has with everything that you're associated in your life. Your gut brain is your identity, your self-preservation, so taking care of yourself, and mobilization. So if you've seen people who are often stuck in procrastinated situations, their gut has been completely unheard of for a long time. So if you hear a sea of people especially in abusive relationships, you might have seen it in the movies or had a close friend, family, whatever. They might be in a relationship for so long, they know that their spouse is very abusive, is not productive for their life or well-being, and they still continue staying there for so long because by then their gut is completely shut down, their identity is completely shut down, their self-preservation is completely shut down, and therefore they have a lack of mobility to move out of the relationship because by then they are so emotionally subjugated to feeling that this is what they deserve. I hope you all can understand where I'm coming from. If nothing else, you might have seen it in the movies and can now see why certain people do what they do. I can also ask you to pay close attention to how you take your decisions. Pay attention to people closely around you on what you think they do and what is their prime function in their life and which of their brain is actually more active in certain decision making. Is there any questions around the prime functions of the brains?
A slightly different question, madam. I am Harendranath.
Sure. Please call me Nisha.
Yeah,
my parents gave me a beautiful name.
Okay, Nisha. The count of neurons in each type of brain, whether it is by birth or it develops as the age grows.
Amazing question. So what's your good name?
Harendranath.
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 Okay. Harendranath, beautiful question. I am so glad you asked me that question. I would like to go back to the previous slides and share something with you.
Fine.
Now, we spoke about the number of neurons in each of the brains, right?
Billions and millions.
Yes, the billions and millions one. Now, what is the amazing part is that when we were born, this, if you can see the cephalic brain, which was 50 to 100 billion, right?
Yeah,
now,
right.
This reduces or increases depending on how much of utilization we are getting out of it. How many of us have had our parents say to us, if you ever applied your brain fully, you would have got more marks. Right? I'm sure either you've said it to your own child or you've heard it from your own mother, for sure. Same thing with regards to your compassion brain and your courage brain. Okay? Because what's happening in that is sometimes when we were a child, you've heard of people who say, when I was young, I used to do such crazy things. I don't know when now, after parents keep shouting at me, I've changed. Right?
Yeah.
So that is where the change is happening. And there have been MRIs that have been taken. So if you get deeper down into neuroscience investigation or reading the mBraining book, you will see that MRIs have proven the same child when he was 5, the number of neurons in his cephalic brain, his enteric brain, and cardiac brain changes based on his education, his conditioning, his religious beliefs, his environment, all put together, then evolves and changes the person into a different set of neurons.
Okay.
Now, the human body being as amazing as it is, it can adapt and change again depending on how you tend to activate those brain centers.
Okay.
So if you've noticed, for senior citizens, they encourage you to do yoga, which means they're trying to get your body activated, a little more flexible, improve your metabolism, improve your digestion, keep your joints more lubricated. Now, to activate your cephalic brain and that you don't get early Alzheimer's or dementia, which is a lot of things that people face today, they play Sudoku, do your puzzles, keep your brain active, read more, write more, etc. Right? Okay. What are we doing for a compassionate brain? What are we doing to activate our heart?
Okay.
So all of these things will then differ on how our brains are going to evolve, how many neurons are activated. Hence, I have such a wide range of saying 50 to 100 billion neurons for your cephalic brain, 200 to 500 million neurons for your courage brain, and 30 to 120,000 for your heart brain. This is why you see even though heart attacks do happen in younger people, heart attacks most likely happen in the middle ages because your stress level is almost at its peak, because a person working, managing their family life, finding health issues, etc., normally happen in their middle ages because during that time they have not paid attention to their heart. And I'm not only talking about the physical heart, but also the emotional part of your heart. And this is where society today is struggling. They might be making enough money, but when it comes to actually taking care of their emotional, mental stability and well-being, there's not enough being done, not only in society at large, but by each of us as individuals. All right?
Yeah.
I'm so glad you asked that question.
Does it, maybe to continue, will it start reversing when the age grows if we don't actively maintain our, is it that?
100% it regresses. Absolutely it regresses.
Okay, fine. I think it answered my question.
Okay.
I have a question about this. We have been always hearing about keeping the brain active by doing these puzzles and what keeps thinking and all that. What do you do for the other two brains you introduced today? That gut brain and the thought brain. How do you keep them active? Is there any special methods of that, or how is it? Or it is
You'll
not?
have to come to me and do some mBraining sessions.
Nice.
No, apart from that, things that you're doing actively with yoga, meditation helps a lot. So remember, the autonomic nervous system is what is connecting these 3 or your 5 brains, basically. That is the basic thing that's running all the way from your spine down to your gut area, okay? The autonomic nervous system is comprised of 2 basic areas, which is your parasympathetic mode and your sympathetic nervous system, okay? Now, you want to activate your parasympathetic as much as possible because that is where you make your best decisions. When I say parasympathetic, you are in a calm state of mind, completely in control of your decision-making capacity, completely in control of how to move forward, completely in control and attuned to your compassionate heart so that you can then take decisions. I'm talking not about life-changing decisions, even the smallest decisions would then have, because every decision we take in our life, it's like a snowball effect and will have an ultimate effect on how it impacts our life. That's how mBraining really helps you. So to continue developing your compassion, taking care of plants, maybe pets, playing with children, the younger people you spend time with, the more younger people you spend time with, the younger you're going to feel. And that's why you look at Professor Maggie, she's been with being a professor, always dealing with the young ladies of Jyotinivas, she still continues to be young. And so vivacious, that is so important. That keeps that element.
To all the students, no? All the students, yeah, I am one of her old student, Maggie student. She was being the center of the attraction among the students. Always she'll be surrounded by the students only.
Exactly. I'm also from her college, and that's why I can say that.
Okay.
And again, like you said, doing the puzzles for your head brain. And to keep your gut brain active, I think one of the most important thing, I don't know how many of you practice this, but I would highly encourage you, get into doing intermittent fasting. Because today's society has forgotten, when do I actually truly feel hungry? Because what has happened is everybody's got into this amazing so-called discipline of waking out of bed, drinking up a cup of tea or drinking a cup of coffee, and then diving into a breakfast. The concept of breakfast is actually breaking your fast. It's not to eat as soon as you wake up. And unfortunately, culturally and every otherwise, we've been told you have to eat your breakfast. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So untrue. So if you all want to read, I would encourage you to read Dr. Carl Jung. I'll send you a link if you want later on. There is decoding, there's the obesity decode. There is also reversing your type 2 diabetes. It's written by this doctor. And intermittent fasting would then get your gut actually activated, which means you only eat when you're hungry and you stop eating the moment you feel full. That is one way. The second way of activating your gut is to remember and actually slowly and steadily list all the things of foods that actually make you feel good and what are the foods that actually make you feel like a slump. And slowly you will realize the human body was never ever devised to actually eat any carbohydrates. I'm digressing from my main subject because this is something else I'm working on the side with some nutritionists around the world. And the truth is, the human body does not have anything that produces fat. I don't know how many of you know this, but the human body does not produce fat. And amazingly, we've all been told, don't eat fat. So what you ought to be doing is you should be eating fat and not eating carbohydrates, because the human body does produce glucose. You all know this. It produces glucose. That means when you eat carbohydrate, it also converts into sugars, and that increases the work that your insulin has to do in your body, therefore develops into diabetes. All right. So if you want to activate your gut brain, pay close attention to intermittent fasting and the foods that you may possibly be allergic to, or the foods that your body actually does not need. So the moment you start doing this, your gut suddenly wakes up, because for the first time in many, many years, your gut begins to say, now I'm hungry, feed me, now stop, I'm full. So I hope that kind of partially answers your question. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought, has everybody fallen asleep now?
We cannot
It's
afford
so
to.
interesting, no? So we all observed in that.
Okay, okay.
Very
So
good.
I'm not going to take too much
Maybe
time
feeling
because
hungry.
we've really gone a long, long way out of time. So I think you all can see how mBraining does add value to you. I'm just going to put the screen out there, and I think we'll close up because it's already 7:30 and I really don't want to take more of your time.
Topic is very interesting, what you're saying, especially for seniors like us.
So anytime you want to get in touch with me, Professor Maggie is always there. You can get in touch with me. I'll be happy to.
Ma'am, I would like to have touching with you.
Please don't call me ma'am. Please call me Nisha.
Okay, Nisha. Okay.
Anybody else? Any questions? Any feedback on what we discussed? Anything? I'd love to hear from you.
You told us that we have 3 brains or 5 brains.
Yeah.
And the most important part is the gut part of the brain.
All of them are equally important, sir, because we've stopped listening to them, other than this fantastic brain that knows how to do the 50 lakhs. The other brains are not activated. So we need to just wake them all up.
You gave importance to the gut part of the brain. And I see the background of this thing has got a heart-shaped instead of the gut part.
No, because the heart is what your seat of compassion. Let me tell you, when any decision you take, if it does not come from a seat of compassion, the decision will fail. So I don't know if this is the right place, but people, how relationships work today, and I'm talking about relationships at large, not only a man, woman, but relationships at large. When decisions are being taken about relationships, it must be generated from a seat of compassion. So all heart is far more important, even though it's got the least number of neurons. If that shuts down, everything in your body shuts down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I want you to think about your gut brain. It's like the CPU, right? It's processing all the food, your identity, your self-preservation, your mobilization. It's doing all of that. So this heart is this cute little thing sitting there, but it's the one that's connecting between your gut and your brain. And if that one is not kept happy, imagine you have all the money in the world, but you have no love in your life. It's all over. That's one thing you cannot buy. So every decision, if anything you all take away from this evening's conversation, please remember to keep your heart in a space of compassion, and that will keep equilibrium in your life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have got one question.
Sure.
In sleep, when you're sleeping, which part of the brain is active?
Your brain is always active. Your brain doesn't go to sleep. That's the beautiful thing. Your brain is the one thing, this head brain is fully working. So imagine if your head brain, your heart and your gut stopped working, morning we're not going to wake up. They're all completely working. They are the silent soldiers behind your existence. Hence why I'm requesting all of us to activate them and be more in connect and in tune with our own brains. We always, the moment I ask somebody, how did you come to this decision? They'll say, I thought about this. I thought about the pros and cons. And I ask, so how did you feel about it? So when you're talking to your children, your spouses, always ask them not what do you think, but please ask them, how do you feel about things? Because feeling means you're coming from here. Thinking means you're coming from here.
No, deep sleep means the thoughts are not there.
You may not have thoughts, only that you're not aware of it. The thoughts are there.
So,
Your mind, the one that you started the conversation with earlier this evening, the mind is not aware of the thoughts. Does not mean the thoughts are not there. The thoughts are there. That's how you might see some dreams in color or in black and white. You may not remember them in the morning. The thoughts are there. They never shut down.
Thank you, madam.
are there any more questions? If there are no questions,
What
Prasad?
about the spiritual part of the brain? When you're doing extrasensory perception, or when you're doing deep meditation or deep spiritualism, what happens to the brain?
Which brain?
The head part of the brain.
So what is happening in your so-called spiritualism? Your question itself had so many think. Your spiritualism is now coming from your head brain. That's where I'm saying even your spiritual life, if you can take it to the heart level, you would have a completely different way of how you look at your spiritual life. Because right now, most of the people are going through the motions of what they need to do. Be it a puja or a church or a masjid or whatever, everybody is going through the motions of the tradition. What is the underlying fact, or what is it in your heart that you feel when you do that is not there? The emotion is detached. I've often seen people, they wake up, they've been taught that they need to say a mantra, they would just do it. They rant it away. But there is no emotion. So where is your spiritual life? Your spiritual life is now something, it's a discipline which you have been taught to do. But where is the feeling? So imagine instead of us all displaying the amazing religions that we have, instead of that, actually doing our religions. Because bottom line, every religion speaks about love. So if we were doing our religion instead of showing our religion, the world would be a far happier, beautiful place, a more protective environment. Today, we are so hung up on our differences instead of concentrating on the one commonality that we all have, and that is love.
I will just tell my feeling of today's meeting. I should first of all thank you for introducing us to a new concept, which almost all of us were not aware. We were just almost thinking brain is something, one brain only. Very interesting topic you chose. And in fact, the time as it was going, I feel that we should need more and more time for this, because the subject is so deep, but unfortunately we don't have much time. Only I look forward to listen to you in some other forum if possible. Like you can put us on to that meet or something like that. It is a very interesting subject. Thank you for introducing that to us. And
My pleasure, sir.
yeah, and it is creating a lot of awareness in our own self. Thank you so much for that.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Thank you, Nisha. We want to have once again one of your program once again, at least little more for more time. Instead of this
Sure.
this thing, we would like to have it in a longer way so that we can have a good discussion with you.
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. It'll be my pleasure.
Thank you.
Prasad?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Okay. It's my responsibility today to propose a vote of thanks.
You're being forced to do that. I'm so sorry for that.
No, it is not a force, madam. It is a vote of thanks from all of us. Only he is representing us.
Yeah, that's it.
Ms. Nisha Thomas, thank you very much for your very beautiful and very illustrative and very intelligent lecture. And by popular demand, you're required to come again into our club and give a more exhaustive lecture with a more number of members. Today we are almost touched 20. And till now, we are always under the impression that the brain is the most important part. Now we thought there are 3 brains or 5 brains, and the gut part of the brain is more important, and the heart is the most valuable one. Thank you for your advice, and you are the most, the youngest and the most smart-looking speaker that we have ever had. It was a very pleasant.
Nisha, compliment to you.
I'm almost embarrassed.
Madam, one request I make, you can just please put us on to some website or something where we can read more about this.
Sure. You can just refer to www.mbraining.com. You'll have a lot of free information out there.
Send it to our president. I think it's circulated in our WhatsApp group.
I'll share it with Professor Maggie, and she'll share it with all of you.
Please, madam. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. And
Thank you, Nisha.
thank you for being such an involved and participative audience. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night. Keep
Nisha
safe,
Thomas.
everybody. God bless
Thanks.
you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks to the president for arranging this beautiful lecture. Thanks to all the participants who participated in this. I wish more number of, or 3 or 4 times the number who participated today were there in the thing to enjoy the lecture. Unfortunately, they missed it out.
Oh.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Nisha.